Have you noticed how the price of goods has been increasing over the past few years? That's all because of inflation. This week, we speak with economists in the Research, Statistics and Data Analytics Department, Kevin Woods, about this important topic of inflation.
Have you seen the Grenada 50? The Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, in collaboration with the government of Grenada, issued the Grenada $50 note in July 2024 to commemorate Grenada's 50th anniversary of independence. The Grenada 50 is printed on polymer. It is the same size and includes similar security features as the current EC banknotes in circulation. This limited edition $50 banknote was issued exclusively in Grenada, but it can be used in any of the ECCB member countries. The Grenada $50 note is legal tender. This means that it can be used for any of your standard and over-the-counter business transactions.
Kevin, welcome to ECCB Connects.
Thank you very much, Shomalan. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, Kevin, the word of the day, inflation, inflation, inflation. We hear this almost every day. So we're going to discuss what it means. But before we get into the discussion, let's check in with some people across our member countries to get their take on inflation.
Okay.
For me, inflation will increase in cost of living within a country over a given period of time.
They increase a little than before, because before you could have used amount of money and get a lot of goods, but now you can't do that.
1 week, and I think one price, and next week it's a higher price.
What I've noticed is a general increase in price for the same good. So for example, if we have a bread that costs $5, now it's costing $10 or $11, depends on the store that you go to.
Well, definitely seen an increase in the prices of everyday items. Things like fruits, vegetables, even basic staples like bread and milk have gone up. And also it's harder for me to find discount on items I typically buy. So these price hikes, it makes it more challenging.
Those increases in prices are as a result of inflation, which is triggered by a number of factors. Some of those contributing factors are the war in Ukraine, the unrest in the Middle East, and if we can go back a little bit, COVID-19 pandemic.
From a layman's point of view, I think inflation has to do with the hike in prices or the rise in prices that doesn't necessarily match with the spending power of individuals.
So we've heard from one or two people from our member countries, their perception of inflation. And of course, we see that they are feeling the pressures of inflation. But what is inflation?
Inflation, generally speaking, is a sustained increase in the price level over a given period of time. This increase in prices could be as a result of a number of factors. Usually it is measured over a period of time, usually 1 year, although it could be done on a quarterly basis as well. But inflation really refers to increases in the price of a basket of goods, or it could also refer to increases in the cost of producing items. But generally it is measured by using what is called a consumer price index, which essentially is a basket of goods which is selected, which is supposed to be an average representation of the consumption of consumers in an economy. And this basket of goods is based on a particular year, which is referenced. And what happens is that the enumerators are the persons who collect the data. They will look at how the prices in this basket of goods changes over, say, a period of 1 year. And the difference between the prices of these goods 1 year later compared to the base period is what you refer to as the rate of inflation or the rate of increase in consumer prices.
These goods, what determines what items go into this basket?
It will vary depending on the country in which you live. But generally speaking, it would be based on goods that persons normally buy. It normally includes items such as food, clothing, drinks, alcoholic beverages, things of that sort.
Pretty much the basics.
Yes.
Okay. What factors contribute to inflation?
A number of factors contribute to inflation, but generally you could categorize them in two buckets. One, what we call cost push inflation, and the other one, demand pull inflation. In the case of cost push inflation, this is as a result of changes in the prices of goods because of events that have occurred. So for instance, the cost of goods may increase because of, similar to what happened with COVID-19, there is logistical issues. Goods and services cannot come as regularly as they used to. And as a result, that drives up the cost of these goods, okay, and services. On the other hand, it could be as a result of the demand. So for instance, in some countries, because of, say, loose monetary policy, that is, the central bank lowers interest rates, people have more spending power, the demand for the good or service increases beyond what the economy can provide. As a result, there's sort of a bidding war for it. People will pay more for that good or service than other people would, and that pushes the price up generally. So you have what called demand pull factors. There is another factor too, which is associated with both of them, and it has to do with speculation. So if people speculate that in the future prices are going to be higher, and this is, say, implied in automatic rent increases or other factors which people anticipate will be more expensive in the future. Well, what happens is once these things are realized, for instance, like in some countries where there's a very active labor union, if they anticipate that they can push for higher wages, and they actually do that, then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And as a result, this sort of mentality continues. They think, well, if that happened
rent will go
next
up.
year, it will happen the following year, and that fuels increases in prices.
So I'm going to backtrack a bit. Inflation. How does the average person feel this? What do they see happening?
Essentially, what you will see is an increase in prices in the supermarket. In the case of food, you would see increases in the prices of gasoline at the pump. These are probably the most prominent items that we see. And in addition, you will also see increases in prices for other consumer goods. So sometimes what is done is that these items are taken out and they look at what is called core inflation. So if you take out food and you take out fuel and also other items that the government may set prices on, if you take those out, you look at what is the core inflation rate. Now, these components will increase in price, will have price increases depending on developments. What the average consumer is going to realize is that perhaps their wages or salaries have remained constant, but the prices of these items is increasing. So this is how it impacts the average consumer. It reduces the ability to purchase more goods and services at the prevailing prices of those goods. But generally speaking, inflation results in a reduction in people's spending power.
Right. So what $100 used to give me last year, let's say I might be able to pick up 10 items with $100. Now I can only get 6?
That's correct, yes.
We've come to the end of this week's episode of ECCB Connects. We discussed inflation. Here are the key takeaways. Inflation is the increase in the cost of goods and services over a period of time. One of the major contributors to inflation is imports. Inflation affects your purchasing power. That means it reduces the amount of goods you can purchase with the same amount of money. Thanks for watching. We invite you to join us next week for another program.